$1. Is this a dollar? $1 by order of Congress. If the first thing were a dollar, why would it need the further command of Congress to make everyone accept it as a dollar? And if it were not a dollar, what good would a political decree saying that it is be? By order of the Federal Reserve Board, $1. By order of the Federal Reserve Board, $1, this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's this document, right? The green one. Well, one does not have to be an economist to realize that unless the dollar is entirely an airy abstraction, no actual dollar is involved in this sequence. Only another hefty dose of bull. Indeed, this exercise illustrates the presumption of elitist politicians and bankers that Americans can indefinitely be hornswoggled into believing that in the realm of money, a silk purse can be made from a sow's ear, or from the other end, for that matter. Self-evidently, something is desperately wrong with America's monetary system when its internal incoherence, economic nonsensicality, and even absurdity are so easily exposed. America's monetary system, however, is actually part of her legal system. So when the monetary system collapses into absurdity, Americans can and should consult this country's book of legal instructions, the Constitution, to determine what is wrong. The Constitution is not an exercise in self-contradiction, confusion, chaos, or least of all, absurdity. The Constitution does not presume that a silk purse can be made from a sow's ear, or that a mere word can be substituted for a thing, or that mere promises to pay money can actually be money. First, the Constitution mandates a strictly limited government with respect to money. All governmental financial transactions that involve actual money are to be conducted in silver and gold. The unit of official money is the constitutional dollar, a coin containing 371 1/4 grains of fine silver, no more and no less. The dollar first proposed as America's monetary unit by none other than Thomas Jefferson, by the way, and then designated as the standard of value in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the Constitution and in the Seventh Amendment, was the Spanish milled dollar. It's going right here. The American dollar is based upon the Spanish milled dollar, as the latter then circulated in the free market. Its then contemporary content of fine silver was determined in the Mint Act of 1792 as an historical fact, and therefore cannot be changed now. Official gold coins are simply to be valued in dollars according to the exchange rate between silver and gold in the free market. A very rational and simple system. Of course, everyone who reads the Constitution knows that it explicitly and absolutely prohibits the states from issuing paper currency. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 provides that no state shall emit bills of credit, what the founders used as the term for paper currency, and that no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. What's often overlooked is that the original draft of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2 of the Constitution empowered Congress to borrow money and emit bills on the credit of the United States. And it was on the basis of that power that the Continental Congress issued the so-called Continental Currency, one of the many forms of bills of credit that circulated during the War of Independence. But in the Constitutional Convention, by a vote of 9 states to 2, the Convention deleted the power to emit bills, so that Clause 2 of the Constitution now reads, to borrow money on the credit of the United States, period. Inasmuch as Congress has no powers other than those the Constitution delegates, this deletion absolutely deprives Congress of any power to emit bills. So the emission of paper currency by the general government is as unconstitutional as the emission of paper currency by the states. Moreover, although Congress may borrow money on the credit of the United States, it enjoys no power to lend money, directly or in the guise of creating credit. And if Congress lacks the power to emit bills, lend money, or extend credit, then it may not delegate those non-existent powers to the Department of the Treasury, let alone to private banks. Second, the Constitution secures individual freedom with respect to money and banking. Americans are free to choose whatever non-fraudulent currency and forms of banking they may desire for their own private transaction. Third, the Constitution outlaws all banking monopolies. The overriding principle is separation of bank and state. That is, no political and financial establishment linking private financial interests with the government is allowable. It is the flouting of this restriction that is primarily responsible for the economic crisis plaguing America today. Federal Reserve notes are the currency of a private banking cartel, the Federal Reserve System, which operates on so-called fractional reserves. Using fractional reserves, the Federal Reserve System creates currency and debt many times greater in nominal dollar value than the debts on which that currency and credit rest. So the result is an inverted financial pyramid in which at the bottom a small foundation of debts of uncertain values attempts to support at the top a huge superstructure of currency and credit. Well, as long as each apparent dollar's worth of new debt at the bottom seems to prop up this new currency and credit, economic activity in society continues to expand. But should enough of those debts prove bad, disaster follows, because each dollar's worth of debt that must be written off at the bottom requires many dollars worth of currency and credit to be extinguished at the top. Then the economy rapidly stagnates and sinks into recession or even collapses into depression. Well, the Federal Reserve System is not merely a private banking cartel, but instead it is interlocked and underwritten by the Treasury of the United States. Indeed, there is a statute that makes the Treasury the surety for the redemption of Federal Reserve notes in lawful money should the banks fail. This political integration of bank and state renders the general government, and through it the American people as a whole, hostages to the vicissitudes of fractional reserve banking and allied speculative ventures in the world of high finance. That is why the present crisis in the fractional reserve banking system threatens not only the solvency of the banks and their clients, but also the solvency of the Treasury, the credit of the United States, and ultimately the economic stability, if not survival, of this whole country. Worse yet, the Federal Reserve System is a cartel established by Congress for the purpose of self-regulation by its member banks, again, all of which are private parties, not governmental entities. When in 1933, Congress attempted to set up similar self-regulating cartel arrangements throughout the rest of private industry under the National Industrial Recovery Act, the Supreme Court held, and I quote, that such a delegation of legislative power is unknown to our law and is utterly inconsistent with the constitutional prerogatives and duties of Congress. Well, the Federal Reserve System escaped condemnation in that particular case because its purported authority arose not from the National Industrial Recovery Act, but from the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, the unconstitutionality of which has evaded adjudication ever since. Well, self-evidently, the economic and legal chaos that has arisen throughout America's economy by structuring this country's monetary and banking systems on a delegation of legislative power that is unknown to our law and is utterly inconsistent with the constitutional prerogatives and duties of Congress dwarfs by orders of magnitude the harm that such an illegal delegation in any other industry could cause. And why? Because money and banking affect all economic activity throughout the entire country. And it will continue to have that effect, becoming increasingly more severe until the glaring contradiction between what the Constitution mandates and what politicians and bankers have done in defiance of it is finally resolved in the Constitution's favor. Necessary, then, is to restore the rule of constitutional law to money and banking. Which requires formulating a workable plan for reform. We, the people, enjoy all the constitutional authority that is necessary. Through the power of Congress to coin money and regulate the value thereof in a foreign coin, through the duty of the states not to make anything but gold and silver coin, tender, and paper,